Opinions stated by various contributors to the Money and Business Show and related programs are not to be considered as endorsed by Radio Shalom, its employees. Visitors to this program are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions. Please read your prospectus and consult with your own investment advisor.
Live from the studios of Radio Shalom, 1650 AM in Montreal, Canada, the city of Joie de Vivre, the world capital of culinary variety, and the home of the Montreal Canadiens. This is the Money and Business Show with your host, Samuel Izerzer. Every week, Samuel and his guests discuss money, investments, financial services, and the world economy. Over the next hour, you can have your questions about business and personal finances answered. So call 514-738-4100 extension 200 to speak with Samuel and his guests. And now, here is the host of the Money and Business Show, Samuel Izerzer.
Money, money, and business. Incentive bonuses? Why do we pay them? How much is enough? How much is too much? Bonuses are a fact of life in business, but few of us develop confidence in our decisions about how to administer them. Before it was politically incorrect to do so, we used to call them Christmas bonuses or Hanukkah bonuses, and the extra money was to help us overspend for the holidays. In more recent times, particularly through the lean years of the mid-70s and the year 2000, bonuses disappeared from many companies, especially from smaller and privately owned ones. The purpose of a bonus, I thought, or the real purpose, is to encourage specific organizational behaviors from departments, managers, and employees. Like all solid business, operational, and marketing decisions, the payment of bonuses should be based on the business environment, investment expense, management, and business objective issues. Bonus payments should not be made just because a company thinks it ought to pay them. There's a point of diminishing returns when the bonus paid no longer achieves in meeting those behaviors. Aside from emptying the company's coffers, is there such a thing as too much bonus? Why isn't there a rule of thumb enough to determine the amount of bonuses? Live from Toronto is Mark Toren from Altura Search Partners. He's considered a leading authority on asset management industries in North America. We're going to be talking about our topic today and discussing how to get bonuses in the age of recessionary markets. My name is Samuel Izerzer, your host for the Money and Biz Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM. Thank you for tuning in live with our business studios headquarters in Montreal, the financial capital and the home of the greatest hockey team, the Montreal Canadiens. We have another great show for you today, and as always, you can call if you have any questions, comments, or even criticism, please, on today's topic. Please call us direct, 514-738-4100, extension 200. We'll take your calls. Or if you want to email me at moneyandbusinessshow@gmail.com. If you have any questions, inquiries, you can also visit our website at www.radio-shalom.ca. All our shows are archived. Now, again, our topic is how to get bonuses in the age of recessionary markets. Well, this is a subject that I love to talk about and gets my pressure going. It actually elevates it. And if anybody's been listening to me for the past, well, all your listeners out there have been listening to me for the past, I would say 3 years, every time I talk about bonuses, my blood pressure goes up. Especially when, you know, someone like Hank Paulson, the Secretary of the Treasury in the U.S. at the beginning of the great 2008 financial crisis, Hank Paulson, as he was called, was primarily known for a sort of bizarre optimist and can-do attitude when faced with the fact that the entire global economy has just almost exploded. Henry Paulson may have been trying to keep everyone thinking positive instead of just jumping out of the windows over the Wall Street disaster, or he may have just been secure in his knowledge that whatever happened to everybody else, he was still set for life. You see, when Paulson was recruited from the leadership of the Goldman Sachs at that time, I believe he received special preference and extra money during the Paulson supervised bailout. He was required to sell his $500 million Goldman Sachs shares, but through the use of unusual loophole pointed out by his fellow Goldman Sachs executives, he said absolutely no taxes on the transaction. Well, to me, that's that kind of bonus being paid out. That's why I get mad. Another one, but we're just going to pick a woman. Her name is Carly Fiorina. If anybody knows who she is, she's a CEO of, well, she was a CEO of Hewlett-Packard from 2000 to 2005. Carly Fiorina was described by some people in the American technology industry as the anti-Steve Jobs. I remember those days. A tech executive with little understanding of the products her companies used to sell. I remember. As a result of the HP board of directors gently suggested that she be transferred to another position within the company. When Fiorina refused, she was more or less kicked out with a reported $21 million severance package. Yeah, she refused and she still gets $21 million. Where are we going here? Today I'm going to be talking to Mark Toren. He's the president and founder of Altura Search Partners. Mark Toren attends various industry events, is a frequent writer, contributor on various industry articles. Altura Search Partners publishes a semi-annual newsletter and white papers devoted to the asset management industry. Mr. Toren's articles have been featured in the investment industry leading publications including Advisor's Edge, the Investment Executives, and the CFA Analyst. He remains a guest speaker at numerous educational and industry association events across Canada and the U.S. He's widely considered as a leading authority on the asset management industry in North America, and we're going live to Toronto. How are you, Mark?
Sam, it's great to be back here once again. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'd love to have you, Mark. And you know, it's just your understanding of the whole wealth management industry. That's why I have you on. And not only that, but it's also your perception about life, too.
Well, I'm not going to proclaim to be an expert on life, but I know a few little things about the asset management industry, and also, obviously, some human resource matters, which I'm always happy to speak about.
Yeah. So when you listen to me when I talk about some of these CEOs, you know, Hewlett-Packard, Goldman Sachs getting $250 million or $500 million, no taxes charged. I mean, it gets you a little bit fired up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think these, unfortunately, these events, when these happen, whether it's Lehman, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and these big payouts, it really, it paints a very bad picture of corporate greed and wasted money is what I would call it. But it really doesn't begin to accurately reflect the real picture of what's going on in terms of severance packages. And I know that the topic is really about bonuses, but I should at least devote a part of the time to severance packages as well, because that's also a very big part of what's going on today. And
you're right. You're right. It's a severance package. But like at the start of the introduction, Mark, we spoke a little bit about the Christmas bonus. Remember those Christmas bonus we used to get in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
It kind of disappeared now in the, I guess, in the corporate world.
Well, yes, it did. I mean, I won't say that bonuses have disappeared because that's not altogether true. They haven't disappeared. They did 3 or 4 years ago, if we all remember when the recession really kicked in 2008 and 2009. Most firms, were not paying out bonuses for obvious reasons. In 2010 or 11, they started to come back very slowly, albeit in much, much smaller amounts. But I must say, just again, adjacent to your initial opening comment, Sam, regarding Carly Fiorini, people like her and others who got these, insane, gorgeous amounts of money, when you look at that on the one end of the spectrum, and on the other end today, when people get severance packages, I must tell you, as one of my mentors, of somebody I look up to in my industry, Henry Higdon of Higdon Partners, said, is that firms are very stingy and very tight today when it comes to giving out severance packages. They are not enamored or interested in giving out generous severance packages when they lay off employees. They may be, when they're trying to attract employees, give them some decent signing bonuses, but when they're going to get rid of them, they are very, very stingy today. In recessionary times, it's what is the minimum that we can get away with to pay, what's the minimum cost that we have to incur to get rid of headcount.
And this is why I said, isn't there a rule of thumb enough to determine the amount of bonuses that we pay out to someone at the end of the year?
Well, there's no rule of thumb. If you talk about rule of thumb, as in what are the general rules for severance packages, but the general principle of bonuses, why do we pay bonuses is for a job well done, and bonuses are paid out normally when two conditions are met. When the company's done reasonably well, and I use the word reasonably well, and when the employee in question has done correspondingly well too. And typically both of those conditions have to be present in order for a bonus to exist and be paid out. And the reason for that, Sam, is, as you know, a company can do very poorly, and yet an employee can do their job quite well. And the company will come back and say, well, look, Sam, that's just too bad. I mean, the company's had a bad year. We're just not able to pay a bonus. So in fairness, bonuses are normally paid out on two criterion to be fair to the employee, and the weighting of the criterion is far more weighted in favor of the employee than it is of the company when it comes to paying out the bonus.
So the bonuses in the age of recessionary markets, what's the outlook out there for 2013?
Well, I think it is definitely better. I mean, yesterday I was just looking at a Toronto News Pulse that said that Canadian employers were interviewed, and they said that 17% of employers next year intend to hire. And that's not bad. That's just under 20%. Like 20% of all companies intend to add headcount. That's pretty good, considering that we're still not quite out of the recession yet, to see that 1 out of every 5 companies is going to hire. And so what that means is the following. Bonuses have been paid out the past couple of years, and I'm going to tell you why. Even when companies are not overly substantially profitable, they are paying bonuses. So the question is why? The answer is, when a company hasn't paid its employees any bonuses, Sam, for 2 or 3 years in a row, then the morale definitely starts to decrease substantially, and there's a general executive and management decision to say, look, we can't not pay bonuses for the 3rd and 4th year. We got to pay something. Otherwise, you're clearly going to start losing your employees. You're going to lose some serious talent. So the question is, we're going to pay bonuses not so much for how well the company or its employees have done, but for the sake of maintaining and preserving employee retention, and retaining as many employees as you can. You cannot afford to lose them just for the sheer fact that you have not paid bonuses for 3 years in a row.
Mark, what gets me mad, or what gets me upset, or maybe I'm just shooting in the dark over here. Companies lose money, specifically the financial companies. They're in the red, as we saw in the financial crisis in 2008, or 2007, 2008, and 2009, and even including 2010. Why are they still paying bonuses to their employees, and their CEOs are getting outrageous amount of money?
Yeah, so
as companies lose money, and we're not just talking about the USA, we're talking here also in Canada.
Yeah, so obviously there's a very serious dichotomy and a disconnect between sometimes shareholder interests and employee interests and executive board members as well, and CEOs. So and there has been a disconnect for a number of years, where, to your point, chief executive officers, chief operating officers, and presidents of companies have been making relatively outrageous sums of money, and yet employees have not, in spite of the fact that firms have been losing money. So there is a disconnect there, and part of that can be attributed to maybe lack of true oversight, accountability, and most of all, corporate governance. Because when you see something like that, there's just no corporate governance that oversees what a company's doing and how it's running its business. There's a lack of fundamental integrity. Now, this can happen in private companies, but when it happens in public companies, it's even more outrageous, because it's shareholder money that's being really pilfered, if you will, out of the public coffers. But it's one of those things that remain an issue, and as we all can recall, over the past few years, some of these instances where CEOs have been taking out outrageous sums of money, whether it be in stock payments, dividends, or substantial bonuses, despite the fact that companies have been in a net loss position for the year. is something that's become very, very much a paramount issue just now in a post-recession and in an era when we're all looking for a greater sense of accountability and responsibility to the public, to customers, to employees, and especially also to shareholders. So I don't have the answer. When contracts are done, the president is due $20 million in a bonus if certain things happen. I think as time goes on, the industry will begin to evolve and rationalize itself, and customers and investors will start asking questions about, is it right for me to park my money inside a company that is rewarding executives the way they do when it's not necessarily tied to performance?
Exactly, Mark. How do you reward an executive? Just hang on for a couple of minutes, because I want to talk a little bit more. How do you reward executives who are non-performers, who are driving companies to the ground? Specifically what happened in the U.S. But Mark Toren is president and founder of a Toro search partner. Mark, you know who the group Millennium is, right?
I've heard of them.
Right, exactly. So I have a song for you, okay?
Oh, thank you.
We're going to listen to it because I know you love that group, Marillion. Go ahead.
Well,
my name is Samuel Izurza for the Money and Business Show Radio Show. I'm CJR 1650 AM Montreal. If you have any questions for Mark Toren, who is president and founder of Valtura Search Partners, please give us a call, 514-738-4100, extension 200. Mark, how are you? Did you like that song, Mark?
I do. It's one of my personal favorites from 25 years ago, yeah.
And you thought I would forget, right?
Sam, you never cease to amaze the world, that's for sure.
And not many people have heard of Marillion. I know they've been in Montreal, I think, you came last year. Was it this year or was it last year?
I came last year. No, I came 2 years ago because they play every 2 years for a whole weekend. They do a weekend every 2 years in Montreal and in Holland. And they've been playing in Montreal for 25 years, believe it or not. Every 2 or 3 years they come. And they're extremely popular in Montreal. They are more popular in Montreal than they are in Toronto.
And it's funny, not many people know who they are. But Mark, let's go to the what we're talking about, bonuses, because, like I said, someone like Stanley O'Neill, I don't know if you know him, he's previously a General Motors analyst during the 80s. He joined Merrill Lynch. Another one, when it came to the subprime time bomb, it went off. He knew about it, and he still got a $161 million payout of Merrill Lynch stock. Could you believe that? But the importance of measuring and recording your own activities and accomplishments on a quarterly and semi-annual basis, how do you do that?
Right. So I think it's very, very important. When someone's coming to an organization and saying, look, how do I know if I'm going to get a bonus and this and that? When someone goes in and right from the bat says, look, I want to know how is my performance going to be measured? And the employer will say, well, we'll sit down with you once every quarter or semi-annually, but they're going to set out for you a scorecard right from the beginning. They're going to say, look, here are the things that you're going to do in the job, and here's what we're going to measure you on. So you know right away. So for you, you go throughout the next few months and you kind of keep your own tally on, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing A, B, and C? And how well do I think? Have I accomplished? Have I finished? Have I completed those tasks? And if I have, did I do it on time? Did I do it ahead of time? Was it above quality? So keep your own scorecard, because when you go in and do your performance appraisals or evaluations on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, they're going to have a scorecard, and so are you. And you're going to see, it's a symmetry there and similarity, and say, yeah. And by recording it, you're presenting and preparing your own case for why you should be getting a bonus, because after all, a bonus is based in a significant part on your performance. So measuring your performance and making sure it's on track or it exceeds what the expectations that were set of you is a great way to prepare for a reasonable expectation that you're going to get the bonus that has been set out.
And I agree with you, because I believe that companies should give bonus where employees contribute to the company and do very well. But when I hear companies that are, I'll say it over again, it just gets my blood pressure up again. to know that there are CEOs out there who laugh at the world and say, hey, I got my $160 million. But what are some of the additional reasons why, Mark, why companies pay bonuses to employees? There must be other reasons than just like performance.
Yeah, so I think there's a number of reasons, and that's an excellent question, Sam. I think one of the other reasons is it's probably one of the greatest attraction features to getting an individual employee to an organization. Hey, this is X is the base, but you could make Y as a bonus. And remember, the bonus is always variable. That could be a huge variable. It could be anywhere from A to Z. And so it's a very, very strong and powerful selling tool, which is a deliberate tool as well. It's a selling point to attract an employee to come to an organization. But the third reason, which is the biggest one, is that is what is the driver for performance, Sam. Nobody performs on the job just to get a base salary. That ensures you come to work, you're on time, you're punctual, you're reliable, you keep your hair straight, you shave every day. But the real driver, and there's been so many psychological and scientific tests done over 50, 60 years, is what drives performance is reward. And how do you reward somebody? You reward them principally and primarily in the form of a bonus. And when you're telling somebody what you can reasonably expect, that is the principal driver and motivator for performance. So performance will determine bonuses.
What about Jack Welch? You know who Jack Welch is?
I do indeed.
That's right, CEO. Well, he was the ex-CEO, General Electric, exactly, for GE. What did he do? He actually shaved off a lot of the layers, right?
Yes.
The bureaucracy and waste from the company.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't invent the wheel there, but I know Welch was one of the first to popularize it in America. Go after the executives. Get rid of some of the layers. So his payout was a staggering $417 million.
Yes.
And it could have been even more had he not renounced the benefits of his GE retention package. So, is there a maximum? Is there a maximum out there that a CEO? I mean, look, we're almost talking $500 million here, Mark. Yeah. I mean, okay, this is just John Welch, but let's say the average person. Is there a maximum bonus, or just complete performance, as you're talking about? What makes employees drive?
First of all, just for the record, I mean, these outrageous, you've referred to it a few times, these outrageous bonus payments, they are outrageous, and they bear no semblance of reality, and this is why the public don't understand why companies behave in such irrational ways when they behave irrationally with their CEOs, but very supposedly rationally with their own employees. So, to answer your principal question, with the banks and large organizations do have very strict formula for evaluating bonuses, and traditionally they would be when you go into a bank, for example, or a very large company, you will be told what your compensation package is, the breakdown is, and how the bonus is attributed and what its makeup is. And typically there will be a number of different components. It would be the company's profitability, your division's profitability, your own performance. So now you've got 3 different variables, all of which have to happen, by the way, because if they don't all happen, then you don't get the full bonus. You may even be in a position where you don't get any bonus at all. And then even when it breaks down to your own performance, there could be 10 or 15 different variables just in measuring your own performance. So sometimes it's a way that a company mitigates and tries to minimize as much as possible the extent to which they're going to pay out bonuses. In other words, well, the company didn't have a great year, your division didn't do very well, and aside from that, out of the 12 criterion that we evaluated you did did okay on 7 or 8, but on 4 of them you didn't do that well. So, unfortunately, large organizations are notorious for doing that, whereas small to mid-sized companies, they seem to be a little bit more streamlined. But I will come back to my original statement, Sam, and say the following. Even if, again, I'm not allowing for a company that's had a net loss, but if a company's had a profitable year, even marginally profitable, there is a recognition and an acceptance that they have to pay some kind of bonuses, otherwise employees will start to leave. One of the questions you asked me just a few minutes ago is, why are bonuses paid out? And another reason, which I didn't mention, after the fact that it's a main driver for performance, the fourth and final reason why people pay bonuses, it's a reward for loyalty and to get future loyalty. Regardless of whether the person has or has not performed. When you pay somebody well on bonuses, Sam, people tend to stay with the firm.
I agree. Mark, I want you to stay on the line because I have a surprise for you. Season N, I know, is one of your favorite songs from Marillion, right?
Oh, my goodness. A second surprise.
The second surprise, Mark, okay?
Thank you so much.
Just on a quick note, I want you to wish you a happy Hanukkah. Stay on the line, okay?
Oh, thank you, Sam. And I want to wish you and all the listeners out there a wonderful Hanukkah as well. May this year be a very special year for all of us. Lots of health and happiness to our friends and family out there. To you as well and to your family, Sam.
Thank you very much, Mark. Again, my name is Samuel Izurza for the Money Biz Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM Montreal. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Great, Mark. I can't wait. Sam. You know what? I can't wait for you to come down to Montreal and.
I'm actually. It's funny you mentioned Sam because as you mention it, luck has it that I'm actually going to Montreal, quasi-business, quasi-pleasure, for a few days next week, and I normally do that around 3 or 4 times a year. So I am so looking forward. Montreal is one of my favorite spots to go to.
Call me.
Absolutely. And again, I want to thank you, Sam, for having me on. Again, it's a great honor and a pleasure for me to come on at any time. I want to wish you and your family and the listeners of the show a fantastic Hanukkah, end of New Year, and a even better year next year.
Great. And on that note, I'm just going to ask you just one more question.
You get a bonus.
Yeah, I'm going to give you exactly. I just need that bonus question, or that bonus answer you're going to give us. Are bonuses linked to the economy and the markets? Are they linked?
Well, I mean, they are, and to some extent they really ought to be, because it's a small part of the rationalization. Why are we paying a bonus? Because what makes up a company is human capital. And if human capital performs, then it's individuals that drive performance, and it's performance that drives companies doing well or not. So, of course, it is linked, it's linked to the markets. Well, if companies do well, what does that mean? Public companies do well, then their stock appreciates. So why do we pay people bonuses? Is because companies have done well, and they're paid in either bonuses and or stocks. So there is a linkage to the market. But as you very correctly said at the outset of the show, there has very often been and continues to be a serious disconnect between bonuses and performance today. And that's got to come to an end, because there has to be a very direct causal relationship between bonuses and performances, especially with stock and performance, right? And not stock and lack of performance, as we see.
That's right, and I agree with you, Mark. And I just hope, CEOs and companies and people out there listening to our show, that to me it's all based on performance. If you do well, you have the right to have as biggest commission or biggest bonus in the world, right, Mark? If you work hard.
I mean, it's very bad publicity. Believe me, when these things happen, and whether it's Jack Welch or any of the Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, no longer in business, but whenever you hear of these CEOs or senior executives getting paid these outrageous bonuses or stock packages, it is a very bad publicity for the company, believe me. And I think companies and executives and board members now are really rethinking about you know, from a corporate governance point of view, and also from an ethics and cosmetic point of view, this can actually be more damaging than whatever they intended to do.
And you're 100%. Mark, if somebody wants to get a hold of you and needs a job in the wealth management world, how do we get a hold of you?
So it's the website www.torenassociates, T-O-R-E-N associates.com, and our 1-800 number is 1-866-425-8872. Once again, 866-425-8872, toll-free, 24/7. They can call, leave a message, because obviously we're only open between the hours of 8:30 and 5 o'clock, Monday to Friday.
Thank you, Mark, and I just want to, again, happy holidays. And hopefully you'll be coming on next year, because you've been on our show a few times.
I've been on a few times. Yes, I have. I think I've been on for about, I don't know, a year now.
Yes, maybe
just over a year. And it's, you know, I've had a lot of fun and enjoyment. You know, speaking about different issues in human resources, certainly in the global markets as well. And I've certainly enjoyed it tremendously. And I want to thank you again, Sam, for having me. It's a great pleasure.
You're welcome.
I always look forward to these. events. And I hope this will be of some help to the readers as well.
Good. I'm booking you about 5 times next year. I'm telling you, Renette. Okay.
Only 5? Oh, my goodness.
At least minimum, I said. Did I say minimum? Okay, good. That was Mark Toren, is president and founder of Altura Search Partners. Thank you again. Also, my name is Samuel Izurza for the Money and Business Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM Montreal. Happy capitalism, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and God bless you.